The Ottoman Empire's 623-year saga, spanning from humble tribal origins to global dominance, represents one of history's most remarkable transformations. This empire's roots trace back to the K tribe, a branch of the Oghuz Turks from Central Asia's vast steppes, renowned for their warrior culture and military prowess. In the 13th century, as Mongol invasion swept across Asia, the K tribe, led by Ertugrul Ghazi, migrated into Anatolia, settling near Sagat on the Byzantine Empire's fringes. Initially pledging allegiance to the Seljuk Sultanate of Rum, they witnessed the Seljuks' crushing defeat by Mongols at the Battle of Kozdag in 1243, creating a power vacuum that smaller Turkish principalities began to fill. Ertugrul's son, Osman I, assumed leadership around 1280 and proved to be an ambitious, capable leader. As Seljuk influence declined, he expanded into Byzantine territories, adopting the Ghazi identity warriors of Islam, which attracted fighters from neighboring tribes and even Christian lands. According to legend, Osman dreamt of a great tree growing from his chest, its branches covering the world, interpreted as divine prophecy of Ottoman greatness. In 1299, Osman boldly declared independence from the declining Seljuks, marking the Ottoman Empire's birth. His forces captured key Byzantine frontier towns, including Bialysik, Yenisei, and Inigal. Recognizing that military conquest alone couldn't sustain an empire, Osman established Yenisei as the first administrative center and created a flexible military system incorporating both Turkic nomads and Christian mercenaries. His most significant campaign, the Siege of Bursa, began under his leadership but concluded shortly after his death in 1326 under his son, Orhan Ghazi. Orhan's reign from 1326 transformed the principality into a formidable empire. Bursa became the first official Ottoman capital, signaling the shift from nomadic tribal structure to settled state. Orhan introduced the first Ottoman currency, the silver aki, and established a centralized bureaucracy to manage diverse populations and resources. His military campaigns focused on northwestern Anatolia, capturing Nicaea in 1331, and the port city of Nicomedia in 1337. The most consequential event of Orhan's reign occurred in 1354, when Ottomans first crossed into Europe. After an earthquake damaged Byzantine defenses at Gallipoli, Ottoman forces seized the strategic peninsula, establishing a crucial foothold for future Balkan expansion. Orhan also created the Janissary Corps, an elite infantry unit composed of Christian youths converted to Islam through the Devshirme system, which became the Ottoman army's core. When Murad I ascended the throne in 1362, he recognized that Ottoman power's future lay in the Balkans. In 1369, his forces captured Adrianople, modern-day Edirne, which became the new capital, signaling the empire's commitment to European expansion. Murad formalized and expanded the Devshirme system, systematically recruiting Christian boys from conquered territories, converting them to Islam, and training them for the Janissary Corps or Ottoman administration. This controversial practice provided a steady stream of highly trained, loyal soldiers while integrating conquered populations into the Ottoman system. Through military prowess, political savvy, and innovative administrative systems, these early Ottoman rulers laid the foundation for an empire that would dominate 3 continents for over 6 centuries. Murad I's military prowess faced its first major test in 1371 at the Battle of Maritsa, where a Serbian coalition attempted to halt Ottoman expansion. The decisive Ottoman victory cemented their regional dominance and opened new conquest opportunities. Rather than pursuing outright conquest, Murad strategically imposed vassalage on Balkan states, forcing tribute payments while allowing local autonomy. This approach expanded Ottoman influence without constant warfare, creating a buffer zone network and revenue stream. The pinnacle of Murad's reign came in 1389 at the Battle of Kosovo, where Ottoman forces clashed with a Balkan coalition led by Serbian Prince Lazar. This hard-fought battle proved transformative for southeastern Europe. In a dramatic turn, Murad was assassinated on the battlefield by a Serbian noble who had feigned surrender. Despite losing their sultan, the Ottomans achieved strategic victory, shattering the Serbian-led coalition and solidifying control over the region. This marked the effective end of Serbian independence and established Ottoman Balkan dominance for centuries. Murad's transformative reign shifted the empire's center of gravity westward, establishing the Balkans as a key frontier. His administrative reforms strengthened central control over diverse populations through new governing structures. He divided conquered territories into military fiefs called timars, granted Ottoman cavalry officers in exchange for military service. This system maintained a large, self-sustaining military force while providing administrative mechanisms for newly conquered lands. When Bayezid I ascended the throne in 1389, he inherited a realm poised for greatness. Unlike his methodical predecessors, Bayezid embarked on aggressive campaigns that pushed the empire toward both zenith and disaster. His military prowess became evident as he swept through the Balkans and Anatolia. Bulgaria fell under Ottoman control. Large portions of Serbia succumbed, and numerous Anatolian beyliks were absorbed, transforming the Ottomans into a formidable force spanning 2 continents. In 1394, Bayezid targeted the ultimate prize, Constantinople. He initiated a blockade, hoping to starve the Byzantine capital into submission. However, the city's ancient walls and Western European aid allowed it to withstand Ottoman pressure. Though unsuccessful, this siege signaled a growing threat Ottomans posed to Christendom's heart. Europe responded to Ottoman advances in 1396, when a coalition assembled under King Sigismund of Hungary at the Battle of Nicopolis. The decisive Ottoman victory shattered Western hopes of reversing Ottoman gains, cementing control over southeastern Europe and demonstrating military superiority over divided Christian powers. Bayezid strengthened the Ottoman state through continued centralization, streamlining administration to manage rapidly expanding territories. The Janissary Corps grew significantly in size and importance. In a bold display of imperial ambition, Bayezid adopted the title Sultan of Rome, positioning himself as rightful heir to Byzantine legacy and claiming all former Byzantine territories. However, Bayezid's relentless expansion proved his undoing. In 1402, Timur Tamerlane, a Turco-Mongol conqueror who had built a vast Central Asian empire, set his sights on Anatolia. The 2 powers collided at the Battle of Ankara, proving catastrophic for the Ottomans. Bayezid's forces, exhausted from continuous campaigning, were no match for Timur's battle-hardened army. The Ottoman army was routed and Bayezid captured, shattering Ottoman invincibility and throwing the empire into chaos. The Sultan died in captivity the following year, triggering the Ottoman interregnum. The interregnum, 1402 to 1413, marked a critical juncture. Bayezid's four sons Suleiman, Isa, Musa, and Mehmed each claimed the throne, fracturing the unified empire into rival territories. The brothers controlled different regions across Anatolia and the Balkans, engaging in complex alliances, betrayals, and brutal conflicts. Timur deliberately weakened Ottoman control by restoring semi-independent Anatolian beyliks, dismantling the carefully constructed power structure. The consequences were far-reaching. Ottoman expansion halted completely. Former Balkan vassal states reclaimed independence, sensing weakness. The civil war drained military, economic, and administrative resources, while widespread internal unrest plagued the population. The succession struggle played out dramatically. Suleiman initially controlled European provinces, while Isa held western Anatolia. Mehmed maintained power in north-central Anatolia, and Musa, initially allied with Mehmed, later turned against him. Suleiman was defeated by Musa in 1411, but Musa's reign proved short-lived. With Byzantine Emperor Manuel II's support, Mehmed crossed into Europe and defeated Musa in 1413, ending the interregnum. This period exposed the Ottoman state's vulnerability and highlighted how dynastic conflicts could tear apart powerful empires, underscoring the critical importance of strong, centralized leadership in maintaining cohesion across vast, diverse territories. From the ashes of civil war emerged Mehmed I, Bayezid I's youngest son, who rose to power in 1413 facing a monumental task, transforming a fractured state into a formidable power. The Ottoman interregnum had left deep scars, but Mehmed's reign proved crucial in restoring imperial strength and setting the stage for future expansion. Mehmed's first challenge was reclaiming lost Anatolian territories and reintegrating rebellious beyliks that had regained autonomy during the civil war. He employed both diplomacy and military force, negotiating with some beylik leaders and offering positions within Ottoman administration in exchange for allegiance. For those who refused, he launched targeted military campaigns, gradually reasserting control over the Anatolian heartland. The Balkans presented complex challenges. Former vassal states had seized opportunities to break free during the interregnum. Mehmed worked tirelessly to reassert Ottoman vassalage over regions like Serbia and Wallachia through diplomatic pressure, strategic alliances, and limited military interventions. He sought to build alliances with neighboring states, creating buffer zones that reduced immediate threats and allowed focus on internal consolidation. Though the Byzantine Empire remained diminished, Constantinople still stood as a symbol of resilience. Mehmed chose calculated restraint rather than launching a costly siege that might strain his recovering empire, maintaining a delicate balance of pressure and diplomacy while focusing on more pressing imperial reconstruction matters. Internally, Mehmed rebuilt the administrative system severely disrupted during civil war. He re-established the Timar system, reassigning land grants to loyal supporters and ensuring cavalry forces remained properly maintained. Economic recovery became another key focus. Years of civil war had disrupted trade networks, so Mehmed took steps to re-establish these vital arteries by improving roads, protecting merchant caravans, and negotiating trade agreements, gradually revitalizing the Ottoman economy. When Murad II ascended in 1421, he inherited a realm recently emerged from turmoil, facing immediate challenges from internal rebellions and external threats from the Byzantine Empire and rival Anatolian beyliks. His first test came when he confronted a major Byzantine-supported revolt threatening to undo his father's restoration work. Murad swiftly suppressed the uprising, solidifying his position and reasserting control over wavering Anatolian territories. With internal threats quelled, Murad turned toward the Balkans, launching campaigns targeting Serbia, Wallachia, and Albania, aiming to transform loosely controlled vassals into integral Ottoman territories. He simultaneously extended influence northward into Hungary, setting the stage for future conflicts shaping Eastern European power dynamics. The pinnacle of Murad's military achievements came in 1444 at the Battle of Varna, where Ottoman forces faced a formidable Christian coalition led by Polish and Hungarian forces. The Crusaders marched confidently, hoping to push Ottomans from Europe, but Murad's tactical acumen and troop discipline proved decisive. The Ottoman victory shattered the Christian alliance and secured Balkan dominance for generations. Persistent challenges remained, chief among them Albanian leader Skanderbeg's resistance beginning in 1443. His guerrilla tactics and intimate knowledge of mountainous terrain frustrated Ottoman attempts to fully subdue the region, showcasing limits of Ottoman power even at the height of Balkan dominance. In a surprising move demonstrating Ottoman political complexity, Murad temporarily abdicated in 1444 in favor of his son Mehmed II. This decision, likely motivated by desire for respite, proved short-lived as instability from having an inexperienced ruler during ongoing conflict became apparent. Murad soon returned to power. His later years focused on consolidation and preparation, investing heavily in strengthening fortresses throughout the Balkans and Anatolia as both defensive bulwarks and launching points for future campaigns. In 1451, 19-year-old Mehmed II ascended with eyes fixed on a prize eluding his predecessors for centuries: Constantinople. His preparations were meticulous. He ordered construction of Ramila Hizari, a massive fortress on the Bosphorus's European side, completed in just 4 months. Its cannons controlled naval traffic, cutting off potential aid from the Black Sea. His most formidable weapon came from Hungarian engineer Orban, who designed enormous cannons measuring over 8 meters, capable of hurling 600-kilogram stone balls, unprecedented firepower in siege warfare. In April 1453, Mehmed launched his assault. For 53 days, Ottoman forces battered ancient walls with relentless cannon fire, while Byzantine Emperor Constantine XI and outnumbered defenders fought desperately. On May 29, 1453, Ottoman troops breached the walls in early morning hours. The last Byzantine emperor fell in fierce street fighting. By nightfall, Constantinople, heart of the Eastern Roman Empire for over 1,000 years, had fallen. Mehmed immediately transformed his prize, restoring and revitalizing the declining city. He envisioned a new imperial capital rivaling the world's greatest cities, encouraging immigration of skilled artisans, scholars, and merchants. He converted Hagia Sophia into a mosque while protecting Christian and Jewish communities. Understanding their skills and connections were vital for prosperity. This relative religious tolerance became a hallmark of Ottoman rule. With Constantinople secured, Mehmed expanded Ottoman power through Balkan campaigns, conquering Serbia in 1459, Morea in 1460, and the Empire of Trebizond in 1461, eliminating the last vestiges of Byzantine rule. His ambition stretched beyond his new capital into Bosnia and Albania, where he faced fierce resistance from leaders like Skanderbeg. In Anatolia, he brought remaining Turkish beyliks under control, creating a unified Turkish state. His forces crossed the Black Sea to secure the Crimean Peninsula, extending influence into Eastern European steppes. Mehmed's military successes were matched by institutional strengthening. He overhauled the Ottoman legal system, issuing a new code serving as governance foundation for centuries. He patronized arts and sciences, attracting scholars and artists from across the Islamic world to his Istanbul court. When Bayezid II ascended in 1481, he inherited vast territory and a looming question: could Ottomans thrive without constant warfare? His reign marked a shift from conquest to consolidation, testing the empire's capacity for diplomacy and internal growth in unprecedented ways. Bayezid II's succession in 1481 was marred by a bitter struggle with his brother, Sem Sultan. After defeat, Sem sought refuge in Europe, setting off a complex diplomatic dance involving the Pope and various European monarchs. For years, Sem's presence in Christian lands served as a bargaining chip, influencing Ottoman foreign policy and forcing Bayezid to navigate delicate threats and negotiations. With immediate threats contained, Bayezid turned inward, prioritizing internal stability and implementing policies encouraging economic growth. Infrastructure development became key, with investments in roads, bridges, and public buildings improving Ottoman subjects' lives while facilitating trade and communication across vast territories. Perhaps Bayezid's most significant act came in 1492, when the Spanish Inquisition reached its height. As thousands of Sephardic Jews faced expulsion from Spain, Bayezid extended a welcoming hand, granting safe haven to refugees within Ottoman lands. Cities like Istanbul and Salonika saw influxes of skilled artisans, merchants, and scholars, enriching the empire's cultural and economic life for generations. This tolerance was both humanitarian and shrewd. Jewish refugees brought new skills, trade connections, and intellectual capital, while contrasting sharply with European religious persecution, reinforcing the Ottoman Empire's image as a realm of relative religious freedom and cultural diversity. While Bayezid's reign focused on diplomacy and internal development, moderate military campaigns continued, securing control over parts of the Peloponnese and expanding Black Sea influence. The navy was strengthened, ensuring Ottoman presence in key maritime trade routes and defending Mediterranean interests. His foreign relations balanced diplomacy with strategic military pressure, maintaining complex relationships with powers like Venice and the Habsburg Empire, often using the threat of Ottoman might for negotiation rather than outright conquest. However, new challenges emerged as Bayezid's reign progressed. The rising Safavid dynasty in Persia presented growing eastern threats. Simultaneously, internal dissent simmered, with factions calling for return to aggressive expansion policies. These pressures led to Bayezid's forced abdication in favor of his son, Suleiman I, in 1512. Suleiman I, known as Yavuz or the Grim, seized power through political maneuvering and ruthless ambition. His ascension marked the beginning of a brief but transformative reign, reshaping the Middle East power balance. Selim's first priority was securing his throne. With calculated precision, he eliminated potential rivals, including his own brothers and numerous high-ranking officials, earning his ominous moniker and ensuring absolute rule. Unlike his father, Selim set his sights eastward. The rising Safavid Empire posed both military threats and ideological challenges to the Sunni Ottoman state with its Shia Islamic ideology. Selim responded swiftly, launching campaigns culminating in the Battle of Kaldron in 1514. This pivotal engagement showcased Ottoman military superiority. Forces equipped with firearms and artillery overwhelmed Safavid cavalry, securing crushing victory. The battle safeguarded Ottoman Anatolia, and began a centuries-long Ottomans-favored rivalry. With his eastern flank secured, Selim turned southward toward the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt, which controlled vast territories including Syria and the holy cities of Mecca and Medina. In a campaign lasting less than 2 years, Selim's forces decisively defeated the Mamluks at Marj Dabik in 1516 and Redania in 1517. The Mamluk conquest had far-reaching consequences. It brought Egypt, Syria, and Hijaz under Ottoman control, vastly expanding territory and resources. Egypt's acquisition, with its fertile Nile Valley and control over important trade routes, significantly boosted wealth and economic power. Perhaps more significant were religious and political implications. Controlling Mecca and Medina allowed Selim to claim the title of Caliph of Islam, transforming the Ottoman Sultan from merely a powerful Muslim ruler into the recognized religious and political leader of the entire Muslim world. Selim's reign also saw significant naval power development. Recognizing maritime control's strategic importance, he invested in expanding and modernizing the Ottoman fleet, laying groundwork for future Mediterranean and Indian Ocean dominance. When Selim died unexpectedly in 1520, he left behind a transformed empire. In just 8 years, he had nearly doubled Ottoman territories, secured eastern borders, and elevated the Sultan to Caliph, setting the stage for the Golden Age under his successor, Suleiman the Magnificent. Suleiman wasted no time asserting Ottoman dominance. In 1521, he captured Belgrade, opening the way for Central European expansion. At the Battle of Mohacs in 1526, Suleiman's forces decisively defeated the Hungarian army, effectively ending Hungarian independence and establishing Ottoman control over much of the region. In 1529, he set his sights on Vienna, the heart of Habsburg power. The first siege of Vienna marked the farthest Ottoman reach into Europe. Though ultimately unsuccessful, the siege sent shockwaves through European courts, cementing the empire's reputation as formidable military power. Suleiman's conquest extended beyond land. Under brilliant naval commander Barbarossa Hayreddin Pasha, the Ottoman navy achieved Mediterranean supremacy, allowing expansion along the North African coast and into the Middle East. By mid-16th century, the Ottoman Empire stretched from Hungary to Yemen and from Algeria to Mesopotamia. But Suleiman's legacy extended far beyond military conquests. His comprehensive Ottoman legal system overhaul earned him the title the lawgiver, implementing reforms touching every aspect of society, from criminal law to land management. His court became a beacon of cultural and artistic achievement. Under Suleiman's patronage, Ottoman architecture reached new heights. Renowned architect Mimar Sinan designed iconic structures, including the magnificent Suleimani Mosque in Istanbul. Literature and arts flourished. Poetry, calligraphy, and miniature painting reached unprecedented sophistication. Suleiman himself was an accomplished poet, writing under the pen name Mahibi. Suleiman's personal life was equally intriguing. His marriage to Hurrem Sultan, also known as Roxolana, broke Ottoman tradition. A former slave who rose to become Suleiman's legal wife, Hurrem wielded significant court influence, challenging established norms and reshaping Ottoman royal politics dynamics. As Suleiman's reign progressed, new challenges emerged. Tensions of the Safavid Empire led to eastern campaigns. In Europe, Ottoman advance slowed, facing increased Christian resistance. In 1566, at age 71, Suleiman embarked on his final campaign, the siege of Sigetvar in Hungary. On September 6, 1566, Suleiman died in his tent. His death was kept secret for weeks to prevent troop demoralization, testament to his leadership's centrality to Ottoman military efforts. Suleiman's death marked an era's end, but the Mediterranean remained a contested arena. The 16th century saw Ottomans aggressively expand naval capabilities. Under Admiral Barbarossa Hayreddin Pasha, Ottoman ships patrolled from the Aegean to North African coasts, establishing control over critical trade routes and coastal territories. As Ottoman naval power grew, tensions with Mediterranean powers escalated. Venice found commercial interests threatened. Spain saw Ottoman expansion challenging its dominion, and the Knights of St. John faced increasing pressure. Pope Pius V forged the Holy League in 1571, uniting Spain, Venice, and the papacy against Ottoman naval might. On October 7th, 1571, off Lepanto's coast in Greece, two massive fleets clashed. The Holy League under Don John of Austria deployed over 200 ships against an equally impressive Ottoman armada led by Ali Pasha. The battle raged for hours. When Don John's flagship captured Ali Pasha's vessel and the Ottoman admiral fell, the Ottoman fleet began faltering. By day's end, the Ottoman fleet was destroyed, with only a fraction escaping. The Holy League achieved decisive victory, ending the myth of Ottoman sea invincibility. Yet, Lepanto revealed Ottoman resilience. Within a year, a new fleet was constructed, demonstrating vast resources and organizational capacity. While Christian power celebrated, Ottomans planned their next moves. As the empire faced choppy waters abroad, a seismic power shift occurred at home. For over a century, the empire would be guided by imperial women wielding influence from within the harem. This Sultanate of Women period, or Kadinler Sultanati, marked a unique chapter where women, particularly Valide sultans and favored consorts, held significant political sway. This era's roots trace to Suleiman's reign and Hurrem Sultan's rise. Breaking traditional harem customs, Hurrem became Suleiman's legal wife and trusted advisor, setting precedent for women's state affairs involvement. Her influence extended beyond palace walls through diplomacy and charitable projects, including mosques, schools, and hospitals throughout the empire. As the 16th century progressed, Valide Sultan power became increasingly institutionalized. Figures like Nurbanu Sultan and Safai Sultan wielded considerable influence during their sons' and grandsons' reigns, shaping imperial policy and court politics. Their authority often surpassed high-ranking male officials as they controlled Sultan access and played pivotal roles in major empire-affecting decisions. This power shift was particularly pronounced during young or weak sultans' reigns, when Valide sultans often stepped into de facto regent roles, guiding the empire through turbulent times. Their influence extended to foreign policy, domestic governance, and even military affairs, challenging traditional gender roles in the Islamic world. The Sultanate of Women era reached its zenith with Kozum Sultan's ascendancy, one of Ottoman history's most formidable figures. Serving as Valide Sultan to two sons and later regent for her young grandson, Kozum wielded immense authority over imperial matters for decades. Her political acumen and strategic maneuvering allowed her to navigate treacherous court politics, maintaining power through multiple sultans' reigns. However, increased imperial women's influence coincided with growing political instability within the Ottoman state. The harem, once secluded, became a hotbed of political intrigue and factional rivalry. Competing palace groups vied for power, often leading to intense conflicts, elaborate schemes, and even assassinations. This internal strife gradually eroded central authority, contributing to long-term administrative challenges. Despite political turmoil, the era saw significant contributions to Ottoman culture and society. Many powerful women were arts and architecture patrons, commissioning grand building projects and supporting cultural institutions. Their philanthropy extended to establishing charitable foundations providing essential services to the empire's diverse population. As Kozum Sultan's echoes faded, a new chapter unfolded, one of paradoxical growth and decay. The empire stood at prosperity and peril crossroads, its vast territory stretching across 3 continents. In bustling metropolises like Istanbul, Cairo, and Baghdad, commerce thrived. Markets overflowed with exotic goods, fragrant spices, lustrous silks, aromatic coffee, and intricate textiles. The empire's coffers swelled with trade profits, fueling economic expansion. Yet beneath this glittering prosperity, insidious cracks formed in the empire's foundation. New world silver influx into European markets sent shockwaves through the Ottoman economy. As silver value plummeted, the empire's currency suffered catastrophic devaluation. Inflation soared, eroding ordinary citizens' purchasing power and straining state resources. In the countryside, a different story unfolded. Agricultural production expanded to meet growing urban and international market demands, but heavy taxation burdened peasant farmers. Corrupt local officials exacerbated rural communities' plight. Simmering discontent eventually boiled over into open revolt as peasants rose against the oppressive system threatening their livelihoods. The once vaunted Janissary Corps, long the backbone of Ottoman military might, now cast a long shadow over the empire's political landscape. Originally Christian youths conscripted through the Serm and trained as elite soldiers, Janissaries had evolved into a powerful, often volatile force. Their growing involvement in palace intrigues and factional politics further destabilized an already precarious power balance. As central authorities' provincial grip weakened, local warlords known as Iron rose to fill the power vacuum. These influential figures carved out spheres of influence, challenging the Sultan's authority and fragmenting once unified governance. The Salali revolts in Anatolia served as stark reminders of internal vulnerabilities. These uprisings, fueled by economic hardship, political discontent, and social unrest, exposed Ottoman control limitations over its heartland. The central government's struggle to quell rebellions revealed growing disconnect between imperial center and periphery. Beyond borders, the empire found itself locked in perpetual struggle with formidable adversaries. To the east, Safavid Persia posed constant threats, forcing vigilant military presence along eastern frontiers. To the west, European powers challenged Ottoman Mediterranean dominance. These continuous conflicts exacted heavy tolls on military and economic resources. Maintaining large standing armies and financing costly campaigns strained the treasury, diverting funds from needed internal development and reforms. The empire was caught in a vicious cycle where external pressures exacerbated internal weaknesses, and internal instability hindered effective responses to external threats. The year 1683 witnessed a clash of civilizations echoing through centuries. Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa Pasha led an Ottoman army of over 150,000 troops toward Vienna, the Habsburg Empire's jewel. This was a calculated attempt to strike at Christian Europe's heart and expand Ottoman influence deep into the continent. As July 1683 dawned, Ottoman forces encircled Vienna, their vast numbers dwarfing the city's defenders. The siege began with Ottoman artillery pounding city walls, while sappers worked to undermine defenses. Inside, Ernst Rudiger von Starhemberg rallied outnumbered troops, knowing Central Europe's fate hung in the balance. For 2 long months, Vienna held out against Ottoman onslaught. City inhabitants faced hunger, disease, and constant threat of breached walls, yet persevered, their resolve strengthened by knowledge they were the last defense line. As summer turned to autumn, the situation grew dire. But King John III Sobieski of Poland was marching to Vienna's aid with Polish, Austrian, and German coalition forces. On September 12, 1683, the relief army crested Kahlenberg Hills overlooking Vienna. What followed was one of history's largest cavalry charges. King Sobieski, leading his famed winged hussars, descended upon Ottoman lines like a thunderbolt. The coalition's attack caught Ottomans off guard, sowing chaos in their ranks. As night fell, the Ottoman army was in full retreat. The Battle of Vienna ended in crushing defeat for the empire that had once seemed unstoppable. The aftermath reverberated across Europe and the Ottoman Empire. For Europeans, it marked a turning point, the moment when Ottoman tide began receding. Victory galvanized Christian Europe, leading to the Holy League's formation in 1684, a coalition determined to push Ottomans out of Central Europe. The Tulip era, known as L'Île d'Evry, marked a brief but significant period of cultural flourishing and early modernization during Sultan Ahmed III's reign. This era, lasting from 1718 to 1730, derived its name from the Ottoman elite's tulip fascination, which became a refinement and luxury symbol. The Treaty of Passarowitz in 1718 ushered in a rare peace period, allowing Ottoman leadership to focus inward. Sultan Ahmed III and Grand Vizier Ibrahim Pasha embarked on domestic reforms and cultural initiatives aimed at revitalizing the empire's standing. Istanbul experienced an architectural renaissance. The city's skyline transformed with new palaces, libraries, and ornate fountains. The Fountain of Ahmed III, located before Topkapi Palace, exemplified the era's artistic sophistication with intricate designs and calligraphy. The Tulip era saw Ottoman elite embracing European art, architecture, and fashion elements. This cultural exchange was facilitated by increased diplomatic relations with Western powers, particularly France. One of the period's most significant developments was the first Ottoman printing press establishment in 1727. Ibrahim Bouteflika, a Hungarian-born Ottoman polymath, spearheaded this revolutionary project. The introduction of printed books marked a turning point in knowledge and ideas dissemination. While religious texts remained handwritten, the printing press allowed secular works mass production, including scientific treatises and historical accounts. The era was characterized by flourishing cultural activities. Poetry, music, and public festivals became central to Ottoman high society. Tulip gardens became popular among the elite, with rare bulbs fetching exorbitant prices. Settings for lavish entertainments where poetry was recited, music played, and latest fashions displayed. Economic reforms aimed to strengthen trade networks and boost domestic production. The government encouraged luxury goods cultivation like textiles and ceramics to compete with European imports, leading to brief economic growth, particularly for the urban elite. However, extravagance and westernization associated with the Tulip era sowed discontent seeds among conservative factions and common population. While elites enjoyed tulip gardens and lavish entertainments, ordinary citizens faced economic hardship and rising taxes. Perceived ruling class decadence, coupled with foreign ideas' influence, alarmed traditional Ottoman society elements. This growing tension culminated in the Patrona Halil Revolt of 1730. Led by Patrona Halil, a former janissary. The uprising united discontented soldiers, religious conservatives, and common people weary of Tulip-era excesses. Rebels stormed the palace, demanding Sultan Ahmed III's deposition and an end to reforms and extravagances. The 18th century saw Imperial Russia's rise as a formidable adversary, challenging Ottoman dominance in Eastern Europe and the Black Sea region. This power balance shift sparked the Russo-Turkish War series, forcing Ottomans to confront military weaknesses and embark on reform paths. The first major clash came with the Russo-Turkish War of 1735 to 1739. While Ottomans regained Belgrade control through the Treaty of Belgrade in 1739, they ceded northern Black Sea territory. This loss marked the beginning of a pattern defining Ottoman-Russian relations for decades. As Russian ambitions grew, so did their Black Sea naval presence. The push towards Ottoman-controlled Crimea became a tension focal point. Black Sea region's strategic importance couldn't be overstated. Control over these waters meant trade routes influence and warm water ports access, a long-standing Russian expansion goal. The Russo-Turkish War of 1768 to 1774 proved a turning point in this ongoing struggle. The conflict ended with the devastating Treaty of Kuka-Kaynarka in 1774, dealing severe blows to Ottoman power and prestige. Russia gained Black Sea access, secured rights to protect Orthodox Christians within Ottoman territories, and exerted significant influence over the Crimean Khanate. This set the stage for Russia's eventual Crimea annexation in 1783, a loss that shook the Ottoman Empire to its core. These military defeats exposed glaring Ottoman military system weaknesses. Once feared Ottoman armies, which had struck terror into European hearts for centuries, now found themselves outmatched by modern Russian tactics and technology. Reform need became painfully apparent, prompting modernization efforts aimed at revitalizing military capabilities. Sultan Selim III emerged as a key figure in early reform attempts. Recognizing urgent change needs, he initiated the Nizami-Seded, or New Order Army, creation. This force was modeled after European military structures, incorporating modern training techniques and equipment. Alongside military reforms, Selim III sought to restructure state financial systems, supporting modernization efforts. The goal was clear: bring Ottoman military up to par with European counterparts and halt empire decline. However, these reforms faced significant internal opposition. The Janissary Corps, once the empire's elite fighting force, had become a powerful, conservative institution resistant to change. Many Janissaries saw the new army as threats to their privileged positions and opposed modernization attempts. This internal resistance created volatile political situations, ultimately hampering early reform effort success. The repeated losses in the Russo-Turkish Wars had far-reaching consequences beyond military defeats. They exposed the Ottoman Empire's vulnerabilities to the world, encouraging other powers to challenge Ottoman authority. Moreover, these conflicts cemented Russia's role as the Ottoman Empire's primary rival in Eastern Europe, a dynamic that would shape regional politics for generations to come. As the Ottoman Empire entered the 19th century, it faced a stark reality: adapt or perish. The Tanzimat era, meaning reorganization, would usher in a period of unprecedented change. But could centuries-old traditions truly be reshaped by the stroke of the Sultan's pen? The seeds of reform were planted during the reign of Sultan Mahmud II, who recognized the urgent need for modernization. However, it was his son, Sultan Abdülmecid I, who truly set the wheels of change in motion. In 1839, he issued the Hadi Serif of Gulhane, a groundbreaking edict that promised legal equality for all Ottoman subjects, regardless of their religion or ethnicity. This was followed by the Hadi Humayun of 1856, which further cemented these principles. At the heart of the Tanzimat reforms was a desire to centralize and strengthen the state. The empire had suffered humiliating military defeats and faced growing internal rebellions. European powers were increasingly influential within Ottoman territories, and the reformers believed that adopting Western practices was a key to survival. The legal system underwent a dramatic restructuring. New civil and criminal codes were introduced, drawing heavily from European models. Secular courts were established to operate alongside traditional Islamic ones, creating a dual system that sought to balance modernity with tradition. This legal reform aimed to create a more just and efficient system of governance, one that could better serve the empire's diverse population. Education became a key focus of the reformers. Recognizing that a modern state required an educated populace, they established secular schools, universities, and military academies. These institutions were designed to produce a new class of bureaucrats and officers trained in Western methods and ready to lead the empire into a new era. The expansion of education also had the effect of exposing more Ottomans to European ideas and culture, further accelerating the pace of change. Infrastructure development was another crucial aspect of the Tanzimat reforms. Railways began to crisscross the empire, connecting distant provinces to the capital and facilitating trade and troop movements. Telegraph lines were installed, dramatically improving communication across the vast Ottoman territories. Modern ports were constructed, integrating the empire more closely with global trade networks. Economic reforms aimed to modernize the Ottoman financial system and encourage foreign investment. However, these changes had mixed results. While they did lead to increased trade and economic activity, they also deepened the empire's reliance on European loans. This financial dependency would eventually contribute to the empire's economic instability and vulnerability to foreign influence. Despite the ambitious scope of the Tanzimat reforms, they faced significant challenges. Conservative elements within Ottoman society resisted what they saw as an abandonment of traditional Islamic values. The reforms also struggled to keep pace with the growing nationalist movements in the Balkans, where subject peoples increasingly sought independence rather than equality within the empire. The effectiveness of the reforms was further hampered by the empire's vast size and diverse population. Implementing sweeping changes across such a large and varied territory proved to be an enormous challenge. Many of the reforms were unevenly applied, with their impact felt most strongly in urban areas and less so in the rural hinterlands. The Tanzimat era came to an end in 1876 with the ascension of Sultan Abdülhamid II to the throne. Initially supportive of reform, he oversaw the promulgation of the empire's first constitution. As the Ottoman Empire entered the 19th century, it faced a new and formidable challenge: the rise of ethnic nationalism. This ideological force, born from the crucible of European Enlightenment thought, began to spread like wildfire through the diverse populations of the empire. For centuries, the Ottomans had maintained a delicate balance among their various ethnic and religious groups. Now that balance was tipping. The Balkans became the epicenter of this nationalist awakening. Inspired by the ideals of self-determination and cultural identity, various ethnic groups began to envision futures beyond Ottoman rule. The Greek War of Independence, which erupted in 1821, marked a turning point. For 9 years, Greek revolutionaries fought against Ottoman forces, capturing the imagination of Hellenes across Europe. The eventual success of the Greek cause in 1830 sent shockwaves through the empire. It demonstrated that independence was possible, and other groups took note. Serbia, II began its journey toward autonomy. Through a series of revolts and negotiations, the Serbian Principality gradually loosened the Ottoman grip. Meanwhile, in Bulgaria, a cultural renaissance was underway. The Bulgarian national revival fostered a sense of distinct identity, language, and history. This cultural movement laid the groundwork for political aspirations, culminating in the April Uprising of 1876. Though brutally suppressed, the uprising drew international attention to the Bulgarian cause. The Ottoman response to these movements was often heavy-handed, further alienating subject populations. Harsh repression of revolts, such as the Bulgarian uprising, provided ammunition for critics of Ottoman rule both within and outside the empire. European powers, ever eager to expand their influence, seized upon these crises. Russia, in particular, positioned itself as a protector of Slavic and Orthodox Christians in the Balkans, intervening militarily on multiple occasions. The empire's era provinces, while slower to develop nationalist movements, were not immune to the winds of change. Local elites began to assert themselves more forcefully, challenging traditional Ottoman authority. The seeds of Arab nationalism were being sown, though they would not fully bloom until the early 20th century. The concept of Arab identity, distinct from Turkish rule, began to take root in intellectual circles. As nationalist movements gained strength, the Ottoman Empire found itself increasingly on the defensive. Each uprising, whether successful or not, eroded imperial legitimacy and strained resources. The empire's inability to effectively manage its diverse populations became glaringly apparent. Attempts at reform, such as the Tanzimat era's promise of legal equality for all subjects, often came too late or were implemented inconsistently. The cycle of revolt, repression, and external intervention took a heavy toll. With each passing decade, the empire lost more territory. The Congress of Berlin in 1878 redrew the map of the Balkans, further shrinking Ottoman holdings in Europe. Romania, Serbia, and Montenegro gained full independence, while Bulgaria became an autonomous principality. The Ottoman Empire, once stretching across 3 continents, was contracting before the world's eyes. This territorial fragmentation had severe economic consequences. The loss of productive regions and trade routes weakened the empire's financial position. Attempts to modernize the military and bureaucracy, necessary to combat internal unrest and external threats, placed enormous strain on the treasury. The empire found itself caught in a vicious cycle. Instability led to economic weakness, which in turn fueled further instability. The dawn of the 20th century brought seismic shifts to the Ottoman Empire. In 1908, a group of reformers known as the Young Turks, organized under the Committee of Union and Progress (CUP), ignited a revolution that would reshape the empire's future. Their primary goal was to modernize and strengthen the Ottoman state, which had been declining for decades under the autocratic rule of Sultan Abdülhamid II. The Young Turk Revolution forced Abdülhamid II to restore the Ottoman constitution, which had been suspended for over 3 decades. This marked a return to parliamentary governance and briefly raised hopes for meaningful reform. The revolution was driven by a desire to centralize authority, curb European interference, and bring the empire into the modern age. However, it also intensified internal divisions that had been simmering for years. In 1909, a failed counter-coup attempt led to the deposition of Abdülhamid II. He was replaced by Mehmed V, but real power shifted to the CUP. 3 key figures emerged as the de facto rulers of the empire: Enver Pasha, Talat Pasha, and Semel Pasha. These men would guide Ottoman policy to the tumultuous years ahead. The new regime faced immediate challenges. The Italo-Turkish War of 1911 to 1912 resulted in the loss of Libya to Italy, dealing a blow to Ottoman prestige. This was followed by the Balkan Wars of 1912 to 1913, which stripped the empire of nearly all its remaining European territories. These defeats highlighted the urgent need for further reforms and modernization. Seeking to reverse its decline and regain lost territories, the Ottoman Empire made a fateful decision to enter World War I in 1914 on the side of the Central Powers. This choice would prove disastrous. The empire suffered major defeats, including a crushing loss at the Battle of Sarikamis against Russia in the winter of 1914 to 1915. The campaign, launched in the harsh Caucasus Mountains, resulted in the loss of tens of thousands of Ottoman soldiers to cold and starvation. As the war progressed, the empire faced internal rebellion. The Arab Revolt, which began in 1916 and was supported by British officer T. E. Lawrence, further weakened Ottoman control over its Middle Eastern territories. The revolt, fueled by promises of Arab independence, dealt a severe blow to Ottoman authority in the region. One of the darkest chapters in Ottoman history unfolded during this period. In 1915, the government initiated what would become known as the Armenian Genocide. This resulted in the mass deportation and deaths of over 1 million Armenians, leaving a lasting stain on Ottoman history and continuing to impact international relations to this day. The Ottoman Empire's final chapter unfolded against the backdrop of World War I, a conflict that would ultimately seal its fate. As the dust settled on the global conflict, the once mighty empire found itself on the losing side, facing a harsh reckoning. The Treaty of Sèvres, signed in 1920, dealt a crushing blow to Ottoman sovereignty. This agreement carved up the empire's remaining territories, placing vast swaths of land under Allied control and leaving only a small portion of Anatolia under Ottoman rule. For many Turks, the Treaty of Sèvres represented not just defeat, but humiliation. It sparked a fierce nationalist backlash, rallying those who refused to accept the dismemberment of their homeland. From this cauldron of resentment and determination emerged a figure who would reshape the course of Turkish history: Mustafa Kemal Ataturk. Ataturk, a decorated military officer, became the driving force behind the Turkish War of Independence. This conflict, lasting from 1919 to 1923, saw Turkish nationalists wage a determined struggle against occupying forces. The war was marked by several pivotal engagements, including the Battle of Sakarya in 1921. This grueling 3-week confrontation saw Ataturk's forces successfully repel a Greek offensive, boosting Turkish morale and turning the tide of the conflict. The following year, Turkish forces achieved another crucial victory at the Battle of Dumlupınar. This engagement shattered Greek resistance in Anatolia, paving the way for the recapture of Izmir and effectively ending the Greek presence in the region. These military successes strengthened Ataturk's position and demonstrated the viability of an independent Turkish state. As the war progressed, the very foundations of Ottoman rule began to crumble. In November 1922, the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, established by Ataturk and his supporters, took the momentous step of abolishing the Ottoman Sultanate. This act brought an end to over 6 centuries of Ottoman imperial rule. Sultan Mehmed VI, the last to sit on the Ottoman throne, fled Istanbul, seeking refuge abroad and symbolizing the final dissolution of the empire. The Turkish nationalist triumph led to a new round of negotiations with the Allied powers. The result was the Treaty of Lausanne, signed in 1923. This agreement superseded the earlier Treaty of Sèvres and recognized the sovereignty of the new Turkish state. It established the borders of modern Turkey, securing Turkish control over Anatolia and eastern Thrace, while relinquishing claims to former Ottoman territories in the Middle East and North Africa. On October 29, 1923, Mustafa Kemal Ataturk proclaimed the establishment of the Republic of Turkey. This declaration marked the formal birth of the modern Turkish state and a decisive break from the Ottoman past. Ankara, rather than Istanbul, was chosen as the capital of the new republic, symbolizing a fresh start and a shift away from the imperial legacy. The following year saw another seismic shift in Turkish society. In March 1924, Ataturk and the Grand National Assembly abolished the Caliphate, the last remaining vestige of Ottoman religious authority. This move underscored Ataturk's commitment to creating a secular state, free from the entanglements of religious power that had characterized the Ottoman system. With the foundations of the new republic in place, Ataturk embarked on a sweeping program of reforms aimed at modernizing Turkish society. These changes touched every aspect of life, from education and law to dress and language. The Latin alphabet replaced the Arabic script, Western-style clothing was encouraged, and a new civil code based on European models was introduced. Women gained new rights, including the right to vote and stand for election. These reforms, collectively known as Kemalism after their architect, sought to transform Turkey into a modern, secular nation-state aligned with Western values. The Ottoman Empire's legacy still shapes the modern Middle East and Balkans, reminding us of the impermanence of power and the lasting impact of history.